The iPhone 18 Pro Max fixes the one thing that mattered, and I'm not talking about the chip. After digging through every credible leak, supply chain report, and analyst note from the last 5 months, this phone's most important upgrade is something Apple has never put in an iPhone before. We'll get to that. But it changes the whole conversation about whether this is actually worth your money this September. So here's what's happening with the iPhone 18 Pro Max. Apple is doing something genuinely unusual this year. They're splitting the launch. The Pro models and the new foldable iPhone drop in September 2026. The regular iPhone 18, that's not coming until spring 2027, which means if you want a new iPhone this fall, you're spending Pro money, no budget option, no standard model, and the iPhone 18 Pro Max specifically is arriving with a set of upgrades that on paper look like the biggest year-over-year jump since the iPhone 15 Pro. Let me break down what's actually coming and what's just noise. Let's start with what's inside, the A20 Pro chip, built on TSMC's 2 nanometer process. Now, every year, Apple says new chip, faster, more efficient, and every year the difference is fine. Marginal. You open apps half a second quicker and move on with your life. This year is different. Going from 3 to 2 nanometer isn't a small step. It's the kind of architectural jump that only happens every few years. We're looking at roughly 15% faster performance and up to 30% better power efficiency. But here's what's actually interesting. Apple is using something called Wafer-Level Multi-Chip Module packaging for the first time in an iPhone. In plain terms, the RAM is now integrated directly onto the same wafer as the CPU, GPU, and neural engine. No interposer, no middleman. The memory is physically closer to the processor than it has ever been in any iPhone. That means faster communication between the chip and its memory, which directly improves Apple Intelligence features, real-time photo processing, and gaming performance. And that 12 gigs of RAM, still 12 gigs like the iPhone 17 Pro. But this 12 gigs is going to behave differently because it's not sitting next to the chip anymore. It's on it. That's the kind of upgrade that doesn't show up in a spec sheet comparison, but you'd feel it after 2 weeks of use. But okay, this is the one for the first time ever. The iPhone 18 Pro Max is expected to ship with a variable aperture main camera. Let me explain why that's a bigger deal than it sounds. Every iPhone since the 14 Pro has used a fixed aperture, f1.78. Wide open all the time, regardless of whether you're shooting a dim restaurant or a bright beach. Software handled the rest, and Apple's software is excellent, but there's a ceiling to what processing can do when the hardware is collecting the same amount of light in every situation. Variable aperture changes the hardware itself. In low light, the aperture opens wider, lets more light hit the sensor. In bright sunlight, it closes down, prevents overexposure. And for video shooters, closing the aperture means you can get longer exposure times per frame. That introduces natural motion blur, cinematic look without a filter. Supply chain reports confirm this is in active production. Sony Optical is manufacturing the actuators. LG Innotek is assembling modules at its facility in South Korea. This is not a maybe. This is happening. Now, will it close the gap between an iPhone and a full-frame camera? No. Smartphone physics haven't changed, but this is the first time Apple has addressed the hardware side of the light collection problem, and that matters more than another software trick. The telephoto lens is reportedly getting a wider aperture too, which means better low-light zoom for the first time in a while. And remember that camera control button everyone found confusing? Apple's apparently stripping back the touch-sensitive features and simplifying it, which thank you. Design-wise, don't expect a dramatic redesign. The iPhone 18 Pro Max keeps the same 6.9-inch screen and the triple camera plateau from the iPhone 17 Pro. But there are 3 changes worth knowing about. First, yeah, the dynamic island is getting roughly 35% smaller. Apple's moving some Face ID components under the display, not all of them, and so it's not a punch hole design yet, but the cutout is noticeably reduced. Second, the two-tone back is gone. The iPhone 17 Pro's split between aluminum and glass was divisive. Apple is blending the materials for a unified look this time. One color, no contrast. Third, new colors. Dark cherry is the rumored headline shade. Think deep red with a hint of purple, alongside light blue, dark gray, and silver. Now, battery. The iPhone 18 Pro Max is expected to pack a battery between 5,100 and 5,200 milliamp hours. That's up from 4,685 in the current model. Combined with the 2 nanometer chip's 30% efficiency gains, some estimates put typical usage at over 40 hours between charges. The trade-off, the phone is going to be slightly thicker, 8.8 versus 8.75 millimeters, and heavier, possibly over 240 grams. It could be the heaviest iPhone ever made. Whether that matters to you is personal, but more battery in exchange for half a millimeter of thickness, that math works for most people. One more thing that doesn't get enough attention: Apple's new C2 modem is expected to debut in the iPhone 18 Pro. This is Apple's in-house cellular modem, replacing Qualcomm. The C1 debuted in the iPhone 16e. The C1X went into the iPhone Air. Now the C2 comes to the Pro lineup. It should bring mmWave 5G support and potentially full satellite internet connectivity through Amazon's Leo network after Amazon acquired Globalstar earlier this year. If satellite internet works as rumored, you could have usable connectivity in areas where traditional cell networks don't reach, not just emergency SOS, actual internet access. That's quietly one of the most important upgrades in the entire phone. Now, let's talk money. Analyst Ming-Chi Kuo says Apple is not raising the base price. iPhone 18 Pro Max should start at $1,199, same as the 17 Pro Max, but here's the catch. The 2 nanometer chip costs about 70% more to produce, roughly $85 per chip versus $50. TSMC's new process isn't cheap. Apple's apparently absorbing that cost. Higher storage tiers might go up, and there are rumors of a 2 terabyte option for the Pro Max, which would obviously be expensive. And there's a new wrinkle in 2026. There is no regular iPhone 18 this fall. If you want a new iPhone in September, your options are the iPhone 18 Pro, the iPhone 18 Pro Max, or the iPhone Fold, which could cost over $2,000. The standard iPhone 18 and iPhone 18e don't arrive until spring 2027. Apple is effectively making September flagship season only, and that changes the math for a lot of buyers. So, should you care about the iPhone 18 Pro Max? Here's my honest take. If you're on an iPhone 16 Pro Max or older, this is the upgrade cycle to pay attention to. The A20 Pro chip, the variable aperture camera, the battery size, the connectivity improvements. It's a real generational leap. If you're on an iPhone 17 Pro Max, it's harder to justify. The design is nearly identical. The performance gains will be real but subtle in daily use. Unless the camera matters deeply to you, you can probably wait. And if you were hoping for a more affordable option this fall, there isn't one. Apple's made that decision for you. Pro or Fold, that's it. The variable aperture camera is the headline. It's the first time Apple has fundamentally changed how the iPhone collects light at the hardware level. Everything else, the chip, the battery, the smaller dynamic island, those are expected improvements. The camera is the reason this year feels different. Well, I'm curious what matters most to you. Is it the camera, the battery, the chip, or are you waiting for the iPhone Fold? Let me know, because I'm testing something next week that might change how I think about this entire lineup. See you next video, peace.